Welcome to the You Are a Force podcast channel, your go-to space for real stories, fearless dreams, and unstoppable women rewriting the rules. And the force behind this podcast. Here is your host, Binoli Botadara.
Hi everyone, welcome to You Are a Force, the podcast where we celebrate women who just don't solve problems, they actually build empires out of these solutions. And my guest today is a powerhouse who has taken the backbone of business, the administrative role, and redefined it as a strategic command center. She is a founder of Upsource, a multi-award-winning virtual assistant agency that is rapidly becoming the gold standard for high-caliber financial fractional support globally. So she entered actually the entire industry in 2010, but after navigating her personal journey through redundancy, motherhood during pandemic, this is actually something which she created out of that particular situation in 2020. So without further ado, let me welcome the founder of Upsource. It's my absolute honor to welcome none other than Caroline Marshall. Caroline, thank you so much for being on You Are a Force.
Oh, thank you for having me. What an intro. And I love how you, more importantly, how you framed the admin industry. So on behalf of me and my colleagues trying to push that industry forward, thank you.
That's so amazing because it's not easy to actually create that kind of or rather understand the niche or the space or the opportunity and then create something which is not really popular. It's not like, making an outfit or,
Yeah,
creating
it's not
makeup
sexy.
products. It's not sexy. And sometimes, you need to also tell someone that you need this rather than people need it. It's not like, oh, I need a fruit or I need a drink or I need lipstick.
Yeah,
I
I
think
need
a lot of
lipstick all the
times,
time.
yes.
No, exactly that. Or even like describing, really fully showing what we do. Because even I got off a call with someone yesterday and I'm like, she still didn't get it. And I'm sat there, I'm like, how can I I'm still trying to be, for those people, trying to be like, how can I be clear on what we do? And it's a work in progress.
No, absolutely, absolutely. And every single day, every single client is different, right? So you got to actually be on your toes and say what they want to hear or they understand. So I believe it's quite dynamic and I cannot wait to dive into the world of Upsource and of course you. But before I start, I really want to go back to your childhood. So tell me more about it. How was it like in the any defining moment where you were addicted to sort of organizing or, basically that's the fundamental skill set you require and eventually that actually paved into mastering a sort of, your career, which you have eventually ended up making.
It's a great question because I don't think I've been on a few podcasts now, and I don't think I've actually ever been asked that one. And I'd love to. It did make me laugh when I read this question because I'd love to say that I was that little girl lining up my toys. That was my stepmom, apparently, like not me. Like I was not that kid. But I actually think I know my organization and actual real the way when I got by the time I got into the workforce, knowing I was really good at this was because, well, my parents divorced at a very young age, and my mum was a full-time nurse, and her personality type and just her parenting style, she didn't do any of that stuff for us. So she wasn't a mum that was like, do your homework, do this, do that. It was all on us to do that. And, I think maybe a mix of the two. I do think it's obviously made me who I am today. So I'm not going to
Yeah.
fault that parenting style at all. But she was, a single mum, full-time nurse in house with two daughters and from a very young age. So it's like if I didn't get my homework done, then that was on me. And as you know, and obviously being a woman, I have a lot of those young girl people pleasing things. So I'd find that quite traumatic. Some people, I did know there were girls in my class who didn't care, but I would find that mortifying if I hadn't done something. And when I started to become a teenager, I got very into singing and got to the level of doing grades doing a lot of music festivals, and that naturally meant I had to be organized. My mum wasn't pushing me to do this stuff, and I was learning, I was doing classical singing, so it would be arias in Italian, in German, all
Wow.
this stuff I had to learn, and it meant, doing that on top of I also did dancing and my schoolwork. It meant that if I wasn't organized, no one else was going to be organized for me. I didn't have a me running the
Yeah.
household, like I
Yeah.
seem to have fallen into that trap now. My mom, yeah, if I didn't learn a song, it was on me, and that was it. And obviously being probably a people pleaser, all of that. It all came to me, and I've always been one of those people. It's just my personality type. I think I'm really unlearning that in motherhood myself, but I would always be very busy. I would make myself busy, which meant I had to stay on top of everything.
Hmm.
And yeah, so I think I wasn't naturally organized. I still don't actually think I'm naturally organized, but I think I have grown to be excellent at it from necessity, and then learning actually it's a job.
Love that, because I totally understand. Like, I grew up with my mom working, and I remembered every time I would come back from school, I would have my grandparents or my uncle, aunt. Like, I grew up in an Indian joint family. So, joint family in India means my parents, my father's siblings, and their families. So, we were like 15, 20 of us in one
Wow.
house. And but my mom, whenever I came back home from school, she wasn't around. So I had to do my stuff on my own, like,
Mm.
drop your bag at a place and, take your plate and then eat and all of those things, which usually, in your like early years, moms would do it. So I
Mm.
totally resonate with it that, you become more matured and aware of your
Mm.
responsibilities than
Yeah.
depending on someone else to do it. So
Oh,
I guess
definitely.
that creates a very strong foundation, I believe.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
but I want to understand that, you started in 2010 as a PA, and then you moved into the virtual assistant scenario in 2016. So, what was the
Yeah.
biggest skill shock perhaps that, which you saw in terms of a human doing it compared to a virtual assistant doing it? And were you like immediately you had to unlearn something to actually get into the groove of things?
So to work virtually in 2016 versus being an in-house assistant. Yeah, so in-house assistant, I think it was, I still think people if you're going into this career in straight out of uni school, you should work in-house, you should work around people, maybe a hybrid setup, whatever, flexible working, what works for you. But I really got to learn by being around senior PAs and listening to them answer the phone, managing a CEO of huge organizations, and there's something about watching people and learning from them that way. So I had a really, really good training ground, learning from assistants who were far more experienced than me, even done qualifications in it and done old fashioned sort of qualifications in it that meant they were just excellent at their craft. So I really learned amazing skills. But what the big change when I went into the virtual assistant industry was firstly the tech. I had worked in organizations which were all very Microsoft. And in 2016, there was Slack, there was Asana, all these tech platforms. I was like, wow. So it was very exciting and then so when I went to the Google Workspace dark side, so I got to discover all this tech that I could utilize to make me better at my job and to advise clients on. And the biggest shift, though, was how the clients perceived me. They saw me as an expert. They wanted my advice on my
Wow.
expertise on tech, on keeping organized, on running their business from the background. Like one client would call me up and be like, "Oh, I kind of see you as a coach now." And while I had really great bosses when I was a PA, it just that dynamic wasn't there. And I don't know, also partly it might have been an age thing as well. Still, when I was younger, I just didn't feel confident enough. But I do think it was a real shift for me in that they really saw me as a different level as a virtual assistant, which yeah, I really enjoyed it. I think I was at the right time to be seen at that level as well.
That's amazing. And I'm sure you must have done something right to do that because, I mean, more often than not, we as women do not give credit to our credentials. I think we just say that, oh, I got lucky because I had a nice boss, but usually it's like us who actually prove ourselves, and therefore the boss is nice to us as well.
Yeah.
So I guess, and that's a great compliment to actually receive that, oh, you've become a coach. So well done you on that.
Um,
But despite of doing really well, and can you talk us through that? What was that one pivotal moment why you started? Because it feels like, you've excelled into what you were doing, but then in 2020, it's like a Netflix series, you had like your different seasons, or after the first season, after the second season, you decided to suddenly start your own venture, which is
yeah.
Upsource. And can you tell us how that happened?
Yeah, it's crazy because actually now Upsource is 5 years in business, and this is the longest job I've ever had, which is quite nice. So yeah, 2016, like I said, I was really excelling, and it was also I reached that point as well because before then, while I did assisting, I did a lot of musical theatre still. Performing was very much in my life, but I felt this shift. I didn't love it anymore, and it was the right thing to do to step away from it. Still very much enjoy it, love going to the theatre, and love doing like the odd dance class, but otherwise, it's not for me anymore. But yeah, back in 2016, I decided to turn away from it. So I really focused on my career, and I could see I was with my now husband. We got engaged that year. Yeah, we got engaged that year. I could see babies on the horizon. I was like, right, I really want to invest in my career. So I have a real solid foundation. The irony of all of this, a real solid foundation by the time I have kids. So I'm not on the back burner when I have kids. I'm really passionate. I know it's from my divorced parents' background. I'm so passionate about the only way we can have equality is if there's financial equity, financial equality. And so I'm just really, really passionate about that for myself as well. And so, like I said, I was thriving. It really helped them. I came to that VA agency back in 2016. I didn't want to only be on the doing. I wanted to really help them grow the business. And it turns out another area I was really good at was client onboarding, looking after clients, especially at the beginning when they can be, that's when they're most likely to be on shaky ground and it's not going to work out is in that first 3 months. And I really excelled in that space. But I got pregnant end of 2017 and I had only got promoted several times in that business from overworking myself. And when you're pregnant, it's just impossible, and it with not without sacrifice. So I continued trying to work as I was through the first trimester where I felt awful, and it ended up in me ending up in a doctor's office for the first time in my life for my mental health. And I just ended up a really hard place, just thinking no one likes me, I can't do this anymore, but still too scared to stop overworking. And I had an amazing doctor that day. But ultimately, we never came back from that. And it was quite clear I would never fit in their vision of how they wanted to work and scale. They wanted to scale like a tech business, but they were a people business. And I think there was a real clash there of values that were just never going to work. And so by the time I had my baby, had very little maternity leave because I just didn't feel safe in my role there. And I wanted to try and control staying there and keep proving myself, like as women try and do. And then, but I got made redundant when he was 10 months old. I then went to go and work for a friend's family business. I thought maybe I'll just keep my skills ticking over. I'll work 4 days a week and yeah, I'll just, see how this goes. It was but it was in person at a clinic. And COVID happened and I was jobless again for the first time in my life, like jobless within 18 months and a toddler, then pregnant again. And none of my friends had kids yet. So I hadn't really been exposed in my circles, even though I knew about Pregnant and Screwed, all those organizations I knew statistically. But it was like, to me, amongst my peers, it was like I was the failure. I was like, I was the first to have babies and just failed repeatedly at so many things, being a good friend, my job, like so many ways I felt I failed. And so I thought, I can't let go of this career. I can't stop. I either stop now and we don't put him back in nursery once the world opens up, or I was a good VA. That was the only thing I could really pull out at this point of like, what was I good at? I was good at being a VA. I'll do that again. And that's where Upsource was born when in lockdown. While I was running around after a toddler, I put all the motions in place to get an income for myself when the world was ready to open up and we'd need to start paying for nursery fees again. And that's how Upsource came about.
Oh my God, I love that. And thank you for being so candid about, your mental health and redundancies, because it's never an easy thing. And most of the times when we actually look back, we just think that how did I even survive those moments? And so many times the other people, when you talk about it, also are feeling the same thing,
Yeah.
which you don't know about, and so many people don't even proactively talk. And but you really need to be very strong to confidently talk about it. But they say that everything happens for a reason, and I'm not saying that you had to go through that,
Yeah.
which is a good thing, but at least something good came out of it, and which is why it's very impressive. So well done on you. And I want to pick up on, yes, you told us why it happened, but how did you make it happen? How did you find the funding or the first clients? Because I think just the 2.3% of the VC funding goes to typically women founders or female founders. So there is a sort of sexism there. I was studying at London Business School, and one of the professors was actually talking about, she has done a lot of research on this, and most of the times most women are asked very negative questions. Do you have a man with you, and what happens if there is a failure? And but the men are asked very positive questions. What's going to be growth, and how do you see yourself 3 to 5 years, blah blah blah. So I want to actually pick up on that. How did you get the funding? How did you source the first client? And did you have any sexist experience while you were trying to build Upsource?
Yeah, and it's an interesting field to talk about because it's not just the fact I'm a female founder. I'm also building a business in a female space that then also suffers with a lot of inadvertent. It's impacted our industry significantly every way from development opportunities in-house to career development. So I'll talk about that in a sec. But so with Upsource, I had a small 10-hour client who I got. Someone I worked with in the NHS, a friend of hers, was a copywriter. She knew I'd gone to be a VA, and I said, well, I actually left that company, but I'm interested in maybe picking up some freelance work because I work 4 days a week. If she's interested in that. So I had a client and then I got on a call with her, and I was just really candid. I was like, I don't have a job anymore. I think I'm going to go all in on this. Like, do you still need me? Like the first thing, because everyone was like, and she was a copywriter and they were thriving during COVID as well because people needed lots of copy on the internet to sell their services and sell their businesses. It was the way to advertise yourself. And so she was fantastic at advertising me. And basically what I did, I started with a financial plan, I started with a business plan, and my finance plan, I only invested, so we had a bit of money in a pot. I invested £2,000. That was it, to get the website up and running. I wasn't going to build my own website. I know some people do, respect to them, but I invested in certain things I needed to, get me up and running. And so with this 10-hour client, I also had the money to just, for the small service subscriptions I needed, like Google, Clockify, things like that. But so we are a bootstrap business with very little money I inputted into it. I think I bought myself a new laptop maybe as well. That might have come later in the year. And the way I went around getting clients, which is a great question because people always ask that, I had zero shame. I emailed people I used to work with in the past. That copywriter was amazing and advertised me to all her network. She was in like copywriter Slack group. So I had a real core group of copywriters ready for then. And an old client got in touch, and she's still a client now. And it'll be like almost 10 years we've been working together, Shelley. So she got in touch, and she also got me then she was like a large client ready for the summer. And she got me my other second larger client that summer as well. So at that point, I knew I was pregnant. So I was going to take maternity leave. So my goal was to build up a client base and hand over them to the team because I wanted to take some proper maternity leave. So so I managed to do it all because I did end up being furloughed. So I have to say I was working my whole business plan on the fact I wasn't going to be furloughed because the company I was at weren't the best at communicating what was going on. I just thought I was at home unpaid again. I did end up having furlough. So I do think I used that time really wisely where I was like, I knew it was going to stop. and it did stop before my kids went into nursery. So I had about a month where I was like, okay, I need to get sold, but I managed to hit my goal of replacing my income that summer, and I did it. So that was what I
Amazing.
did. And when it comes to sexism, I think it's a really hard one to quantify. I think no open experiences. I have occasionally had it where I feel, because my job now, I run an agency, so my job often is make sure clients are happy and make sure team are happy, and that makes it sound very simple and that's a very easy job. But there are times I think I've struggled to get the feedback I need on the service from male counterparts. Not all of them, but a couple I have noticed. And it's like, okay, this is a service. We need constructive, not just positive. I need
Yeah,
this feedback, give it to me.
sure.
But I think it's more something our industry suffers with. Like I said, it's a service that is, unless you've experienced it, it can be very, like we've said, very hard. And because female industries, we're known as a pink industry, so us, my industry, caring industries, teaching industries, just classically don't get treated in the same way as the male industries. And I can see often there's a lot of similarities to, say, for example, how we work to, say, tech developers, but they will get treated very differently because it's tech and it's more male orientated. So yeah, I think there is a lot of work still to do when it comes to perceptions of our industry. And I do think it's because we're 99% female.
How do you mean that the female industry or the pink industry is treated differently? How exactly?
So with salaries, mainly where it comes down to money, like being valued financially. So our salaries, it's taken a long time. And so, for example, classically, and a lot of my peers who are still working back in a lot of organizations, and still happening to this day, where there'll be teams and teams of PAs, but they're not given the opportunities for learning and development or career progression, which is really important for anyone to have that opportunity. Not everyone wants to do that, but having that opportunity is hugely important. And it's often seen that, oh, that's your role and that's where you're going to stay, kind of thing. And that is, and also looking back, it's like, oh, it's just admin. And whereas our roles and have had so many evolutions from
Yeah.
the 80s when the computer came in, right through to 2009, the recession, when everyone was being made redundant, PAs weren't, and we were picking up all the other work that departments weren't able to do, which is how it also, we do have an issue with also how much assistants are picking up. So yeah, and you can see that with the caring industry, teaching industry, those nursing roles that traditionally have women in places, there's a lot of work to do in those areas and those careers.
Wow, I love that because I did not think till now the way you explained it. So uh, you're right, absolutely. They do not get a lot of trainings or learning and development or the career progression or cross-functional opportunities. So very, very, very true. But I want to pick up on, in the beginning when you were starting up, and usually all the founders have initial failures. I mean, it's an ongoing thing, but did you have any sort of tech meltdown or maybe any horrible client or any initial chaos? And now today you look back and you're like, oh my God, thank God that happened and I learned something.
Yeah, I mean a lot. Even this year we've gone through another season of growth. I had one of my core team is on maternity leave, and it meant we got, in order to set ourselves up for growth, has split up the role, and it's gone well. It's just there's learning is in everything, and we're a virtual assistant agency, fractional assistant agency, whatever you want to call us. And unlike, say, our service colleagues, say marketing agencies, accountancy firms, they've got like a blueprint to follow of how other firms have done it. Ours is still so new and so based on getting paid for the time you do. So we face a lot of challenges trying to scale. But I had invested, I think always a story I like to tell is like back in I think my second year, just as I was coming out of maternity leave, I invested in a piece of software. I just fell down that rabbit hole that everyone does online, that still our industry really suffers with a lot as well, is that people are sold tech as the solution. And it's really not, because all tech has, any project management tool, any CRM has its great sides, its dark sides, but the only way you'll get the value out of it is by inputting into it, and that's a human being building it in the way that your business and you need. And so I fell for this one called Dubsado, and it's just completely not suitable for an agency. It's an okay piece of software, it's fine for the right person, but it was complete failure for us. So I'd spent not only the money on the software, but the money on someone building it. And it wasn't GDPR compliant, which I like everything to be, because it's a US based company, but didn't have, some US based companies obviously then have the setup to make sure they're covered in your region, UK and the EU. But that wasn't, and I was just like, oh, it was the first one where I was still on shaky ground, where I just felt very angry at myself. But yeah, it's made for a good story, and it's also a good reminder, and it's also good when I see it in clients or colleagues who are like, oh, what about this software? And I'm like, what do you want it for though? And it's like, map the process out and then decide the software that will suit you and suit your business. It's like, what's the need? And because often we see this all the time, clients are like, I want automations, I want AI. And it's like, what for? Where's your workflow? Can I map out your client onboarding? And they'll be like, I don't have any client onboarding mapped out. And it's like, how can we automate it if we don't have the process? And so yeah, it gave me good learning that I can now bring to others, is that software. But there's been lots of mistakes. I think it's very easy to see the shiny exterior of businesses, and we've made as many mistakes as the next business.
I'm sure it's completely organic to do that. But you provide the strategic support, and you just talked about it very briefly, that, you ask them that what do you need this for? But how do you actually, basically figure out in the high growth environment to come up with something which actually fits the need? Or how do you upgrade the skill set? Because there's so much going on in the world of operations, finance, HR, where you are actually present. So how do you remain ahead of the curve? And when someone or your client comes and says that this is what I need, and you are able to support them with the solution?
Oh, I just keep learning. I have a real learning mindset. I'm, friends with a lady called Fiona who runs Carve AI, and she's the AI trainer, the one I, respect the most, the AI trainer for assistants, and I attend a lot of hers. And it's that balance as well, because my job is also, I've also got to keep reminding myself, my job is to lead and grow the business. So for me, it's also about finding the right people. So for me, it's about not necessarily what I can bring that company, but I know the right person for that, and I can do the initial scoping and really understand a person's pain points and a business's pain points, but I'm not the person to deliver that anymore. So it's knowing that, of like, try and stay enough ahead to be able to be like, guys, you should be all looking at this, or check this out, and also using it in my own day to day, because I've got plenty of admin myself that goes either to team also, but also I streamline with various AI and tech tools. But yeah, for me, it's also, my job is to find the right people who are staying on top of that and in their particular niche.
I love that, because I think that's a complete teamwork, right? Know when to delegate and know when to step up or step out, and then let others actually take over. I think that's a brilliant skill set to learn and have, rather than doing everything on your own and then
Oh gosh.
jeopardizing it completely.
Yeah.
But VA bookings actually, Caroline, surged 16% in 2020, and that's when pretty much you started during COVID. And rightly you mentioned that, in COVID and in, the great financial crisis, I think your role was the one which was not technically made redundant, but we moved into the remote work. So how did you actually execute that strategy of moving from the physical to, remote working, and how did you adopt? And did you just see that COVID is going to give that opportunity to actually evolve?
Yeah, it's interesting. I found it hilarious because I had been working virtually, mostly virtually, with the virtual assistant agency I was at for the 4 years pre-COVID.
Mm-hmm.
And so I had done all the things that I then started to see all my friends to do. Get excited about Slack, get excited about tools. And then, but the flip side also, burn out heavily because it's so easy if you don't have kids because kids I think are really good for helping you not sit at your desk all the time because you physically can't. It's so easy, and that's how I burnt out as well. Partly that was it's just so easy to overwork, like get up, look at your laptop, and I think that's what I found quite interesting about that was like I'd experienced a lot of the stuff everyone was. And I think though, to be honest, I'd seen a real need for what we did before 2020. And obviously 2020, I saw there was great opportunity and like everything, I think I was along the same ride that everyone else was of like, okay, this is the world now. Oh, is it going to do this? Where's the world going? And I think we're still questioning that 5 years on. So, I didn't have, oh, full on confidence. This is the world now and this is great. But, I think I just went on the same journey everyone else was going on and just, I had my second baby December 2020. So I think on the bigger scale, and while I'd like to say I'm one of those founders that had this huge strategy, I did know where I wanted to go with the agency and the potential to a certain extent. But I was also in the deep of like baby toddler land, and my second baby was very sick, so I was recovering a lot from then. So I don't think I had quite that awareness to really think too much about what was going on in the world, other than in my immediate point,
Yeah.
which is right when you're in the early years of motherhood.
Yeah, fair enough. And I think once you're in the water, you start to swim, you learn how to swim. So I think that also happens. But if you were to actually pitch someone today, or one of your clients who doesn't know anything about Upsource, how do you actually instantly convince a founder or an executive that this is not a cost, but an immediate, solution providing opportunity? What's your elevator pitch?
I don't have one. I'm sorry. I really need to work on it. But also some stats there came to mind, and I can't remember the actual stats, but it's something like 60% of leaders are struggling to implement AI in their business. I'm getting this stat wrong. So it's basically, I think we're being sold very heavily on marketing that a tech will solve your problem, AI will solve your problem, it will do your task for you. And the challenge is implementing that. And that is where your assistants and your admin come in because they're still drowning in tasks. If there's anything repetitive you're doing, anything you don't like doing, anything you don't want to do, anything that's taking you away, if you're a leader or a founder, you should be focusing on growth and numbers and data and development, or it might be clients or recruitment. It might be, if you're a startup, depending on your size, there may be those things. But if the admin, any of the doing is taking you away from it, for example, it's still very much on me to do the sales and recruitment, but I don't do the process in the sales and recruitment. Someone else does that. That is, if it's anything taking you away from what you're meant to be doing, then that should be delegated. And it could be even your personal support. I'm not like saying about that. If you have it on your brain that every Monday, like I've got to book my class for next week, on my gym app or something like that. All of those things. There's not an AI to do that yet. There will be at some point, I'm sure, but there's not. And that's what we do, and we do it on a fractional basis, which means you don't need to wait until you're ready to employ someone. Employment costs are high, and get someone who can help you and doesn't need to be there all the time. We can still get to know you, get to know your goals, and you're getting the best of both worlds. I see it in that way. So I hope that answers your questions, but there's a huge amount of statistics that leaders and founders are still bogged down in the day to day, and whether it's also, I'd always say just give a VA your inbox and we'll show you what we can do. I think inbox is knowledge is power, and an inbox gives us a lot of power. So I always encourage that as well.
Wow, love that. And you're so right that, it's so much of hype around AI. And But you also have like Google Assistant, and then you have Alexa, and then you have Microsoft Copilot. So it's like the whole giant industry within the industry, right? So how do you actually still have the high level human assistant? Because the AI giants and what we just absolutely discussed, I want to just pick up on that, that AI can't do everything. So no matter how attractive it looks. So what do you think is like a one or two things which a human can do, which AI cannot?
Yeah, well, an example is, I mean, AI is drafting your emails, but they aren't good enough yet.
Mm, true.
And it's really understanding like it doesn't understand my tone changes if I'm talking to you about the podcast, if I'm talking to a supplier, if I'm talking to a potential client and between clients, my tone changes. It could be if I'm talking to a global client who are based in France and who have a very different communication style, and I'm aware I want to adapt to them versus them. So that summarizes not just like how I am, but which is I'm one person, but also how a human assistant reads you. And that's AI isn't doing that yet. I'm not saying it won't one day, but also, yeah, huge factor we can't, forget about with AI and these, like you said it yourself, these huge tech giants. They're not, it's a dangerous space right now. So you can give, if you pay for the higher level of ChatGPT, you can give it access to your computer. Let's think about and my AI trainer will say it's like we need to think about the repercussions of this, because she did a test with it when she was recruiting and got it to send out LinkedIn messages, and it was a risk. But her job is to take risks doing that. She's
Sure.
literally an AI trainer, and there's going to be repercussions behind that, and we're going to see it at some point. And there's also then a lot of massive organizations won't risk that, and that's where a human comes in.
Yeah.
But it's truly I what I say about people is that I love that AI can't see is that we are so unpredictable, and AI likes the predictable. Human VAs read the unpredictable that we all have, and yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. Because AI doesn't have feelings and, understanding of human beings so well, how much a human can. Absolutely.
It's like you put in a Calendly schedule, and that will just like, which I can't stand them personally. They have their purposings, and it will just give you all the slots. It can't read that actually that I want to prioritize that client over that person. It can't
True.
read that.
Very true. Very true. Absolutely. And the entire space is actually evolving really, really quick, and founders' inbox is actually flooded with millions of things. But how do you see this 3 to 5 years as Upsource's, opportunity to grow? And where do you think that the entire space is evolving, or any early signs of some new opportunities for you and the industry per se?
Yeah, well, excitingly, the Times just released its like top 30 jobs that will be replaced by AI, and for the first time, assistants weren't on it.
Wow.
So it's a very exciting time for us. It's starting to understand, because we are the movers and shapers of tech, of systems, and we've been doing it in the background and not necessarily been selling ourselves in the way we could be. And that's an exciting time for us, is to really show that and to navigate that. And so I think that's where we're going. And we're seeing now it's huge talk that EQ is more important than IQ, and that's what assistants are known for as well. Of our ability to be human and read people, even if we're working virtually or working hybrid or in person. Um, I think there's a lot of scope there that we need to do, is that we have the opportunity for us to stay on top of the tech, to stay on top of. So I always compare us to the role of the bookkeeper. When Zero and Sage came in, the bookkeeper didn't go.
Yeah,
He's
I
still
agree.
there. He's still there. Either still there. They're still there. And they can take on more clients. They can do their work more efficiently. And that's where I see us going as well. And unfortunately, we're all being sold the dream that AI will take off our work and we'll be resting. But sadly, I don't think that's going to be the case. I think we're going to all just
Yeah.
be working differently and
I agree. I
working.
totally agree because when the computers came in, or in 2008 when the smartphones came in, right? Everyone thought that everything is gonna be like, very different. And when the computers came in, people are like, people will not have jobs. But then that particular new innovation also creates so many different opportunities, right? So,
Yeah. And we ended up working more when the computer and we got iPhones with our emails on. We all, didn't we?
true. Absolutely, absolutely. But it's really interesting. You nailed it that yes, I think the EQ is something which the humans have, and in the times where intelligence is so easy and cheap to adopt, I think the EQ becomes more important than the IQ. But
Yeah.
I'm just curious to know that what were the other like top two jobs which the time said that it will be replaced by AI?
Be replaced by AI. I can't remember. It might be lawyers. Sorry, lawyers. I can't remember off the top of my head. I feel lawyers, maybe accountants. I don't. I can't remember. I don't know. We still need accountants, I feel. I certainly need mine.
It's interesting because I was reading somewhere, I read an article that
Oh,
says
be
that,
programmers. Sorry, programmers are gone. That's my husband's job. He's gone.
well done, you're being a good team player, right?
Yeah.
But I read somewhere, actually, it's interesting you're saying this, that try and get into the generalist roles than the specialist roles because the AI is going to replace a lot of specialist roles compared to the generalist. And that's pretty much,
Interesting.
yeah, I read it somewhere actually very, very recently because I'm into generalist role as well. So I'm into business development, sales, or financial
Mm.
services. So work in asset management and, investments, which is a lot to do with human interactions. And that is not going to go away anytime. So I think a lot of specialist roles, I think that article was basically stating that. And that's what I could
And
connect
that
with.
makes sense for assistants. We're very much general.
Correct. Very generalist. Absolutely. Absolutely. And you started also, like your own podcast, which is Bump to Business Owner. And
Yeah.
that's a very interesting name. What was the reason and how do you, like when you interact with them, what do you think, which was the most surprising thing you learned from the founder moms?
Thank you for asking on that. So it was 2020 also was the time Diary of a CEO was slowly climbing up. And I was just quite bored of listening to tech bros talk about how they slept on someone's sofa and their kids stayed with their mum. And it was just like, yeah, mums don't have a choice to do that. We
Yeah.
don't abandon our kids. We're doing it with them. And I just got quite bored of those stories. And at the same time, twofold, we're talking so much about female founders, and I just felt it was so glaringly obvious. One of the huge reasons we are in this position is because we are the ones that have the babies
Yeah.
and have the babies and then manage the too much of the lion's share of the mental load and everything.
Sure.
And also, so it was part that, and my own story was that my career was significantly impacted with children, and I really had to fight and push to plus have a mixture of lucky circumstances that meant Upsource was built, and I really had to work harder than a male counterpart in my position doing that. And also, I felt there's a lot. I meet a lot of young women who don't have children, and they're terrified of having children on the impact on their businesses. They're really worried, because their businesses at that point in their life are their babies. And I think
Sure.
it's like, and while you can't, it's very hard to provide words of hope and wisdom and say it will all work out and do all that. Whereas, I think we learn through, which is what you're doing as well, other people's stories and the inspirational, the aspirational, the challenge, the women who are like, I don't know if I'm doing this right. And I just like sitting there with that. And I think it's from everyone. So I've had women on there who have 6 children and 2 of them have gone off to be doctors. So they're in that season of life. And I've had women who are pregnant come on the podcast as well. So it's really trying to support every season, but recognize that challenge, because I think for a while the feminist movement was a bit like, don't challenge me on how I'm going to do this with kids, and I'm like, no, but we want to know as mothers how you're doing this with kids.
Yeah.
And it's like I'm flipping, it was to flip the story around. Like when we'd ask how do you do it, it's because people are asking me desperately wanting to know how the F I do it.
I agree. And also, I think everyone can resonate even if they have not gone through the same journey, because today or tomorrow you might have the similar situation, or your friend might have a similar situation. So I think, it doesn't really matter how you're nailing it. And it's okay to like even have a one day where you do not want to see your child, and you want to just, sit
Sit alone.
sit and do nothing basically. And I totally understand, because I think the studies show that more than 60% of the work, if still a woman does it in the household, doesn't
Yeah.
matter if she's employed, not employed, she's an entrepreneur or not. So they do a lot of heavy lifting. So I believe that, having that sort of, sisterhood, or being a part of that, really, gives a comfort to a lot of people. And when I started You're a Force, and when I started, interacting with women like you, and then like very successful, most powerful women across the globe, and I realized that it made my soul very happy. My problems were bigger, smaller, ambitions were not as high, whatever. But I could still resonate with everything they went through. I cried, I laughed, everything. So it just beautiful to create that sort of community. So well done on that. And on that note, before I let you go, I want to ask that what is the one piece of advice which you would give it to every woman who is listening today, who is aspiring to become an entrepreneur?
Oh God. Look, I don't mean to sound like wishy-washy, but you've really got to look after yourself, and because I think a lot of us are starting to unlearn things from the, past generations where we were kind of taught to sacrifice everything in all and put ourselves last, and that's what a good mother does, that's what a good business owner does, and it's the opposite, and I'm still working on that in my own way. But find moments for you, because you will be better for everyone around you. You'll be better for your team, your colleagues, that's everyone around you. If someone then needs you, you'll be a much better support mechanism. And I feel like that is how silently we'll all start to do a lot better, is if we look after ourselves.
Wow, absolutely, absolutely. And also, just I wanted to pick up on a cheeky note that you have been featured on a lot of magazines, and newspapers like Guardian and Grazia. So, can you give like a PR hack which you use to actually build, your name in the service industry, or anything which can be a part of mainstream media, which, founders can actually pick up on?
Yeah, very happy to. I once had a female founder friend at an event say, be shameless. And she wasn't talking about press in that octopus, but it is that. It's a little bit, you've got to be a little bit shameless. And so, and I think, because it can be really awkward, but you can find journalists online, like on Instagram, I'm not on X, but apparently that used to be a good place for them. I know there's a female founder who's been on my podcast, Jelena. She's got, shout out to her business called Press Flow, because that's a daily newsletter that free comes in your inbox and you can pitch. No, like when you're pitching for business, I always think, or putting yourself up for an award, no one sees your pitches other than that journalist. And so it
True.
doesn't matter. Like, pitch it, pitch
Yeah,
the story,
it's
and
just
find your story. And because if you don't know what your story is, it's like mine. It's obviously like, look back, how did you start your business? What's the things, VC stats, and you bootstrapped it? What story can you come from that? Like, find your story and pitch for going on podcasts like yours, like mine. That's all pitching. It's the same. It's like, so I think it's just pitch the story, and there's lots of people out there that can help you. There's lots of services like mine, but for PR, and I know some PR agencies, or if you're a smaller form, like PR mentors who help you find your story, and then you do the legwork. I think be brave. Your
yeah.
story's worth telling.
Yeah, absolutely. Just raise your hand and then be shameless about it.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I tell you what, most of the time I just pitched for two stories the past 24 hours. They might come to nothing, they might both go through, but I tell you what, like probably like 10% go through. So it shows you just got to keep going.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And what do you have to lose? Nothing,
Mm,
right? But if you can get something out of it, why not? Absolutely.
exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly. Tell you
great.
what, my biggest one was Waitrose magazine. I got some good clients through there. So
Really?
shout out to Waitrose magazine.
Yeah, yeah, you never know sometimes. When I started this podcast, the things which I thought would work and fly did not.
Mm.
And the podcast or the some conversations which I thought were very niche and no one would watch it and no one would, like it or comment or whatever. And that actually went, really, really very popular. So
I
you
so
never
relate
know
to
what's
that.
gonna
I'm like,
fly.
yeah, I've had the same with my podcast. Some episodes I think I'll do wow, and I'm like, why? Why did no one listen to them?
True, true. And I didn't want to get into like buying the, followers and all sorts of jazz. And I'm like, no, I'm doing this out of passion and I want to organically build my followers and listeners. So I'm not going to do it. And therefore you learn and evolve also with each podcast as well.
Yeah,
So yeah.
well
So
done on doing it.
thank you. And this makes us all very happy, to be honest, more than anything else. And it's because, it's so much of learning. And I'm also a very curious person. So you pick up on a lot of industries and sectors which I don't know about. Plus, you develop the network and you meet these incredible women across the globe. And, because I genuinely think that your network is your net worth. And
Mm,
who you know is more important in life than what you know. So I believe this just gives me both the avenues, and plus, men have enough platforms to shine on. So I wanted to create something just for women, and
we
that
need more
that's
women
all.
platforms.
True, true. And before I let you go, I just want to ask some rapid fire questions. Whatever
Oh,
comes to your mind, just bring it on. What's the best piece of advice you ever received?
it's all about who you know. You just reminded me there. I think, oh, actually, I've had two. It's all about who you know, and if you don't ask, you don't get. And if you ask, you still might not get, but at least you asked. I think I kind of grew up with that one, and it kind of ties in with the PR and sales piece.
Absolutely. My mom always says that if you don't ask, the answer is always no. So
That's
ask.
a good one. Yeah.
Yes. What's your daily self-care routine?
Oh my gosh. It flips and changes. It always involves. So recently I've started doing that, just getting outside in the morning and having a whole pint of water, like first thing while the kids are eating breakfast. And sometimes they come and join me, which is quite sweet as well. So they're getting used to like mummy's routine. I meditate every day or do some form of breath work every day. I have a walk every day, like a
Yeah.
long walk. Yes, like two or three times a week do workouts. So for me, it's always about my meditation. I tend to have a cold shower every day as well. I've been lax on that recently, so I'm going to pick it up.
In winter as well?
It's really hard.
Oh
I
my
think that's why
God.
I've been starting to stand outside in the morning.
Kudos to you. I can't even dream of doing it. It's like
Uh,
so tough to do it. But okay, if you were to meet 16 years old Caroline
oh
today,
God.
what
Yeah.
would you tell her?
I'll probably to chill out. I think yeah, take a breath, build up some confidence, and most importantly, you're not only good at singing, so like start doing some other stuff.
What's the biggest red flag when you're hiring someone for Upsource?
um, if they suddenly disappear. And that sounds terrible, but it
But
happens.
people do that. They ghost you and
Yeah, I
then
don't understand it. It doesn't happen often because now we have a really huge pipeline of team members. We've got to that stage of business, which is great. Like I spend more time on recruitment and sales, but sometimes still people slip through the net and it's interesting. People are interesting, let's just say. It's no mean feat building an agency. It's part of life choice to sometimes see, oh,
yeah,
okay, that's
yeah,
interesting. But yeah, people don't take their career in the same way you do, and that's okay. But it's
yeah.
yeah, it's a challenge.
Okay. One book you would recommend everyone to read?
Oh, I've got so many. I've got so many books. Oh, The Source, Dr. Tara Swartz. Do you know her?
No,
Oh, I
no.
love her. Love her. She's neuroscientist, but also, and really believes though in manifestation, all of that stuff, but comes from the science perspective. My husband did a science degree, is very science brain, so I'm now starting to be used to, okay, I need to like back up everything I'm doing with science. But manifestation, meditation, she brings all of that to it. And it was the book I picked up when I got made redundant, and it just kind of helped me keep, not make any rash decisions, let's say, during that
Wow.
time.
Wow. I'll give it a shot. I'll give it
Yeah.
a read for sure. What does success mean to you?
Success for me means, I mean, the first thought that came to is that I'm happy. If I'm happy with what I'm doing, I'm not going to be happy every day,
Mhm.
and I'm not going to be
Because you're a
happy all day
human.
every day. But if I have progression and I know what direction we're going in, and as a family or as me, because obviously it's not always the right season to push the career. Sometimes it's
Right.
going with the family. So I think for me, it's like knowing where, I think probably success is knowing where my time is to be spent. Um, and whether that's, yeah, that's for me is my success.
And speaking of time, what's the one productivity hack you swear by?
Oh God, the productivity hack I swear by. Honestly, meditation. It works. It really
Yeah,
does.
it does. I agree. Just
Um,
5 minutes and it just gives you so
yeah.
much of clarity, calms your mind. Absolutely.
Yeah, because often if you're flustered and overwhelmed, they say you should be meditating twice a day. That means, and because it works, you're not going to make rash decisions if your brain is all over the place, or you're going to make mistakes, or you're going to not be able to read stuff properly, and it impacts everything.
Yes, it does. It does. If money were no object or no reason, what is that one strategic company or a support you would acquire tomorrow?
Oh, sorry, what's the question? What would I?
Any support or any company you would acquire tomorrow?
Oh, so like buy as a business.
Yeah.
Oh, I haven't thought about that. I don't know. That's
Okay.
one of my business plans. So I have not. I think if money was no object, I need to like have a real think about this.
Okay.
I have no answer for that because it's not in the plan at the minute.
Okay.
And
Fair enough.
it's a potential in the future, but I haven't got a plan for it yet. And
Let's manifest.
as
Let's
a
manifest.
yeah, as a solo female founder, I'm with two young kids. I'm okay with that.
Great. But last but not least, what's the most unexpected compliment you ever received from your client?
Oh, from a client. Oh, I was really nice. I have to say I've had quite a few. The team have, and I think one calling me a matchmaker was quite nice. I think for the first time it was like, and then we like mapped out my dating agency. I'd start off.
Oh,
I'm joking when I'm not starting a dating agency, but I think it was quite nice. It was quite nice for like someone to kind of help me see where, and she was a coach as well, so it's like I pay attention when the coaches are giving me feedback to where they're pointing me to. But it was nice of her. It was kind of like just kind of trying to enhance where I should be in the business, which I think is nice. It's always, yeah, finding your place as a growing agency of where you should be is a challenge. So it was, yeah, a nice compliment.
oh, love that.
Mm.
Great. So on that note, thank you so much for this insightful, revolutionary conversation, which I had a blast to talk to. And you've not only just built a phenomenal multi-award winning business in Upsource, but you also single-handedly elevated the perception every professional administrative field has. So well done on that. And you have shown us that, the best backbone for thriving business is always intelligence and high quality support. So to all the women who are listening today, remember this isn't just a podcast. It's your reminder that you can have it all. So go out there, build your empire. Never let anyone to tell you that you are a support or you do not need to do anything, or your power is limited, because maybe just bribe your VAs with maybe chocolate or wine because it's not going to hurt anyone. But most importantly, fulfill your dream, because there's nothing which you can't achieve and nothing which you can't do. So stay powerful, stay efficient, and until next time, bye.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to You Are a Force. Hit subscribe and join us next week for more powerful stories from women rewriting the rules. Until then, keep building, keep leading, and remember, you are a force.